The Secrets of Star Wars is brought to you by the Star Quest Production Network and is made possible by our many generous patrons. If you'd like to support the podcast, please visit sqpn.com/give.
Hi, this is Ashley Eckstein, the voice of Ahsoka Tano from Star Wars, and you're listening to the Secrets of Star Wars podcast. May the Force be with you.
You're listening to The Secrets of Star Wars, episode 121.
Hello there.
It's a power that Jedi have that lets them control people and make things float.
Impressive. Every word in that sentence was wrong.
Help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi. You're my only hope.
This station is now the ultimate power in the universe.
I find your lack of faith disturbing.
It's against my programming to impersonate a deity.
That's not how the Force works.
Force is with me, and I am with the Force, and I fear nothing.
Remember, the Force will be with you, always.
Hi, I'm Dom Bettinelli, and you're listening to The Secrets of Star Wars, where we discuss the hidden layers and deeper meanings found in all the Star Wars movies, TV series, and more. I'm Dom Bettinelli, and I'm joined tonight by an all-star cast. I'll start with Mike Dens. Hi, Mike.
Hey, Dom.
And Angela Silana. Hey, Angela.
Hello there.
And Mike Creevy. Hey, Mike.
Hey, good to be here.
And Thomas Sanderho. Hey, Thomas.
It's good to be here.
And Andrew Hermes. Hey, Andrew.
Hello.
I'm sorry, I forgot all of your Star Wars names, and so I just kind of skipped it. And Father Andrew just couldn't make it. He is so busy these days. You know, we record on a Sunday night, and he's a pastor, and it's just the whole thing. So don't worry, Father Andrew will be back. This could not be a show without him, because he is the Star Wars priest among us. All right, so let's get quickly into this. We're discussing episode 4, part 4 of the Kenobi series. And before we get into it, I want to share with you a couple things Mike Creevy created from his YouTube channel, youtube.com/thegraciousguest. And he had 2 different YouTube shorts that you're sure to enjoy. The first one is basically the Obi-Wan Kenobi series thus far.
Oh no. Leia has been captured again, and again, and again, and again.
And again. And when it plays on loop, that works really good, actually. And before we go, I got to play the second one. This is his Kenobi series audition part
Leia,
1.
No, don't do that. Leia, seriously, no, don't do that. Do something different. Leia, behave yourself. Leia.
That's like me with my kids when we go out. So.
Yeah, it's basically just me being myself.
Pascal's interview for just Baby Yoda, don't do that. Baby Yoda, no. Baby Yoda, don't do that.
Don't touch that.
No, Baby Yoda,
don't eat that.
Give me the ball back. Don't touch that button. So good job, Mike. That was a lot of fun. Yeah,
very good.
Now you have to make more. So, all right. And before we get into things, this is the first time that we've had both Angela and Andrew on during the Kenobi series. So I want to get your take on the first 3 episodes, the first 3 parts, and your ideas of how it's been going and what you think. And so, Angela, I'll let you go first, because you got something you wanted to share.
Yes, I have done this in alphabetical structure here, so I will just read, and you can guess the letters. So we have Anakin. These are my highlights. Okay, Anakin. Bail wanted to chase Purgle. Chow, Deb. Dayu, Ewan's daughter dealing drugs. What the Force feels like, and Grand Inquisitor's 2 stomachs. Helisabers not being used. I get confused. Jawas being Jawas. Kumail Nanjiani. Leia's formative experiences. Moses Ingram, standout job. Ned B. Owen. The Path. Quinlan smuggling younglings. Red Hot Chili Peppers Flea, who plays lead kidnapper. Soundtrack by Natalie Holt. Tala, Gutsy. Underwater Force-sensitive cemetery trophy case museum. Vader Kenobi encounter mixed feelings. Wilhelm scream.
Mm-hmm.
XY Kenobi had a brother. YO droid on Alderaan who says Yo Majesty. And Zach Braff as Freck, Thanks, Freck. That's a weird story.
So, in case you don't know who Freck was, that was the driver who turned in Obi-Wan and Leia. He was the mole man in part 2. Very good. Was that part 2 or 3? 3, I think it is.
Part 3, yes.
Yeah. Some good thoughts in there. The lack of the helicopter lightsaber thing with the Inquisitors, they did that a lot in Rebels, and they haven't done that at all yet.
I thought there was one. Isn't there one?
When he's intimidating Flea, actually, he.
Well, he doesn't fly with it. He just.
Oh no, that's true. That's true.
If they flew with it, would have changed stories many times.
Right. Yeah, that's true. Okay, lots to think about there, but some of that is probably going to come up in this discussion. So I want to go to Andrew for your impressions of the first 3 episodes.
Yeah, I mean, sorry, I don't have anything as creative as what Andrew just put together.
Follow that.
Yeah, right.
We went in reverse alphabetical order, please.
I promise I'm not drunk, officer. No, but just real quick, I really enjoyed the first 3 episodes. I thought the first episode was really strong, probably the best of the 3. It started off really well. Episode 2, I enjoyed, had some issues with it, has to do with the writing, and I'm definitely going to get into that about episode 4 as we go on. Episode 3 was awesome. Obviously, the way it ended with our first interaction with Obi-Wan and Anakin. First 3 episodes, was loving it. And episode 4, I'll let you know my thoughts as we go along here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good. So I want to preface just by reminding the viewers, the listeners, even bad Star Wars is good Star Wars, and this is not bad Star Wars. Okay. So I've seen some discussion in various places, including our Discord community, which is at sqpn.com/Discord, and in social media about, this doesn't live up to expectations. The series, Disney is ruining Star Wars, that sort of thing. The fact is even the worst Star Wars, even the holiday special, is still Star Wars. Okay. And we are blessed to have Star Wars in our lives. And that's the premise that we come from. So anytime we even criticize, it comes from a place of love and wanting the best for the one we love. And that includes Star Wars. So I just want people to know that. So and any critique is not hate. It is can be just critique. So I just wanted to throw that out there to begin as we get into things. Let's get into this episode because as Mike Creevy has told us in his short, Leia has been captured again at the end of part 3 on Mapuza. Riva, I got to keep all the names straight in my head. Riva has gotten to the end of that tunnel, right, Thomas? Gotten to the end of that tunnel, and somehow captured Leia and taken her away to Fortress Inquisitorius. And let's see, Anakin has dragged Obi-Wan through the fire, and Tala has rescued him somehow and gotten him onto a ship, and he was unconscious, and that's where we begin. By the way, I forgot to mention, did anyone notice something interesting about the design of the droid Lola, Leia's droid, that it has
the mouse ears?
Mouse ears. It's like a Mickey Mouse.
Yeah, my kids noticed that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a hidden Mickey. But also, I saw online Carrie Fisher had a pet, cat? I think it was named Lola, and this is, I think, an homage.
I forgot what it was.
Yeah.
Well, so I remember, I haven't read the whole book, but the Princess of Alderaan book, I think it's called. I believe Lola is also in that as well.
Okay.
And that's where I had first heard of her / it.
Okay. Excellent. So Kenobi's been rescued. He's taken to a safe location, safe house on another planet, a gathering of the people from the path. And I kind of want to talk a little bit about the path first, because this is interesting. This is my take is the path is the seed of the rebellion, right? A lot of the people who are involved in it's an underground railroad rescuing people from the Empire who are hunted by the Empire for various reasons, whether they're Force sensitive or they're Jedi or just run afoul of the Empire. And they're instead of the Underground Railroad, it's called the Path. And it really feels like we're looking at the seed of rebellion here. Am I alone in that, or is that?
I don't think so. I think that this is very specifically geared towards saving Force sensitive people and Jedi and just keeping them from the Empire. So I don't think we have a seed of the rebellion. The rebellion really starts more with Bail Organa, Mos Mothma, Saw Gerrera, and that concept of a political fighting against the Empire without aid of the Force, except in a very nebulous kind of religious sense.
Because he said something about, trying to save, or he says, we need your help. And he says, so does every kid who can float a rock, between here and, of course, he specifically mentions that. So yeah, I tend to agree. I'm sure some of these folks might join up, but I don't think that's their intention.
Well, then you get Tala, who, she was Imperial and she turned away from it because that wasn't her. Mm-hmm. So, is she doing it just to save Force sensitive people? I don't know if she has a connection with the Force or Force sensitive people per se, but she's just kind of doing it because she doesn't believe in what the Empire is doing. So I can see both sides to it.
In Rebels, you only have Ezra and what's his name?
Kanan.
Excuse me.
Kanan.
Yeah. Bail sends for Obi-Wan in A New Hope because we need, Jedi back. It just seems like the Jedi are missing from every other outside of the Rebels there. Every other Jedi presence. So that's where I was leaning when you first brought this up, Dom, is that no, this seems like more of a, maybe they're going somewhere with it, but some sort of let's save the Force sensitives.
I guess. Although I guess I was thinking more along the lines of the rebellion coalesced from a lot of different groups. So you had the Ghost Crew, and they met up with Phoenix Squadron, and then you got the Path, and you have these, and then when we see Rogue One, it's much even clearer that what we've got is a coalition of people coming together as an alliance. And I wonder if maybe the Path is one of those groups that are part of that. And at the end of this, where it's we get that classic line, well, you're soldiers now, the K2SO line, you're a rebel now. Sorry, I jumped ahead on that, but okay. So let's talk about the, because that's such a great line. So let's talk about the beginning of this. So Kenobi's rescued. He's in and out of consciousness. He's taken to the safe house, immersed in a Bacta tank to treat the burns, which they juxtapose with Vader in his Bacta tank. And this is there a Force connection going on between them? It kind of felt like there was this subconscious Force connection that was connecting them both there.
It's hard to tell whether it's narrative or actually like a Force thing, like the Rey Kylo thing. But I think it's more just narrative personally, and that's kind of where I'm going with it.
Okay. The first time after he first found out, and he seemed to call out almost to Anakin, and this was after he escaped the sister, and then we got that first look of Anakin in the Bacta tank. That seemed like they were indicating it, but the other, I would say you're right, Tom. It's either narrative or they're not really forcing the issue. No pun intended.
Yeah, I would agree that I think it's more of it was a stylistic editing thing. I didn't get I didn't get a sense it was like some sort of connection. What really, and I'm going to start off with the things I have issues with in this episode. Is what a missed opportunity here to have flashbacks of, something from Clone Wars. This whole show, the hype for the show has been predicated on Hayden Christensen and Ewan McGregor reuniting.
Yeah.
And we're 4 episodes in now, and we've had one, kind of brief encounter, which was pretty cool. But when we're first introduced to the Bacta tank and Boba Fett, the whole point of the Bacta tank is to show flashbacks And like, I feel like they could have carried on that sort of, use the back to tank as a plot device to go back in the past. And you have these two actors that are in this show and have this whole history that we've seen animated. They could have easily, or we could have just seen new things we've never even seen in Clone Wars, with new scenes with Hayden and Ewan McGregor. I just felt like it was, a missed opportunity again. I feel like we're getting all these thrown together, scenes and plot lines and if you read anything about this show, there was a lot of rewrites. So who knows what the show originally was supposed to be, but it feels like, and this is one of the first real examples to me, at least, where in this episode, a lot of things felt they were kind of rushed, stuff like clunky dialogue and instances like this where I feel like they kind of had something, but they didn't know where to go. And they just sort of held on to plot lines that could have maybe been like, you probably could have combined episode, like the events of episode 3 and episode 4 and done it in one episode. But yeah, I just feel like for a show titled Obi-Wan Kenobi, he's kind of a supporting character in his own show.
Well, okay.
That's just how I feel about that. I had a very visceral reaction to this back to tank scene, because I was like, "Oh, that was it." I really thought we were going to get flashbacks, and I was so disappointed.
Okay, but let me argue though that I believe that that's very intentional, and the reason I say that is because you see Vader in the Bacta tank, and for him, the Bacta is survival. Like, that's what's keeping him alive besides his suit. For Ben being in the Bacta tank, they use the script to build up this idea that Ben needs healing, not just physical, but also mental. In fact, so we see him, he's in there, he has these feelings, he's kind of, moving around, and he quickly, as you were saying, Andrew, gets out of the Bacta tank. He hurries out. And Tala, the first thing she says is, "You're still not healed."
Yeah, you're
still not healed. And to me, that is very intentional, because Ben is trying to avoid the past. He doesn't want to think about it. He just wants to shake it off and go forward. And he can't get it out of his system. It's like, this is just keeping me back. And he doesn't want to heal. And I think, as we go forward, we'll see like Tala is really sort of the voice for this concept, is that she's like, she says, even like later on, she says, your body is not the only thing that needs to heal, Ben. Mm-hmm. So I really believe that the Bacta tank in this situation, yes, was trying to show a parallelism between him and Anakin, but also to show that Ben is not wanting to heal, and he's not allowing himself to heal right now. He's just trying to go about what he thinks he should be doing.
And there'll be more as we go on this healing thing I want to get to, and there's a really good a bit of dialogue coming up. But we switch quickly to Fortress Inquisitorius on the ocean moon of Nur in the Mustafar system. So literally they're neighbors to Vader, who's, his castle's on Mustafar. And we see Leia being interrogated, and she's got this very fierce, "I'm a princess of Alderaan." And Reva, meanwhile, tells her that Kenobi is dead because, the Sith lie about everything. And, oh, by the way, more tiny handcuffs for kids by the Empire. Like, you guys are really, really gross. You're just really... They just seem to have all these tiny handcuffs, which is scary.
To be fair, there's a lot of sizes of aliens out there.
That's true.
So they probably just repurposed.
They're tiny.
Okay. What would they have used on the Bothan?
Yeah. Or on, what's his name from the Rise of Skywalker? What's his name? The guy?
Babu Frick.
Oh, Babu Frick.
If you handcuff Yoda, you're going to need even smaller handcuffs.
They just fall off.
Right. So,
because in Star Wars, they usually kill the children. They don't arrest them.
In part 3, yeah.
Put them in a museum tank thing. Yeah.
Yes. Oof. Yep. We'll get in there. So not much happens in this initial interrogation scene. We're just setting up the fact that Reva's got Leia on her in the fortress and is lying to her. And she's demanding that she tell her about the path. And I'm like, why would this child who literally just you kidnapped from her home and brought to this planet and encountered one person, why would she know anything? That's kind of, I'm thinking, like, why are you interrogating her? It's kind of weird. You kidnapped her from her home, and now you think that she has all this information. It's kind of odd.
Well, I mean, I saw it as like she was clearly helped by somebody in that path. So she probably just wants names, you know.
I guess.
Tell me something, you know.
Yeah. She heard her in the safe house. She was talking about Jabim to Obi-Wan and Quinlan and everything. And Leia ostensibly, I suppose, overheard that, you know, but
yeah, that's true.
And she says, well, like later, you know, she says, I didn't tell them anything, you know, so she knew something.
Right. She didn't give up Tala, which she could have. So speaking of Jabim, we see some new members of the Path, including Roken, played by a known actor, O'Shea Jackson Jr., who folks had been speculating who he could be. I think you guys had talked about it before, about that he might have been Quinlan Voss, but turns out he's this character who is helping Force sensitive escape because his wife was Force sensitive and got taken by the Empire, and so we hear that's what motivates him to help Obi-Wan, even though he doesn't think that's a good idea for them to get involved. We're not soldiers, they say. And then Kenobi says, hey, we can attack the fortress. We could sneak in those T-47 speeders you have over there, which, hello, is Empire Strikes Back. Yes, these are the snow speeders before they got converted to snow speeders. Although, who knew? Their actual uses for hauling sewage. Who knew? They're dump trucks.
But in Star Wars, everything's got to have guns on it. So, you know, it's
well, yes, exactly.
I have a fun, not personal criticism, but when we get to that part later, there's something I saw someone bring up online that if they hadn't brought it up, I would have been like, oh, but now I'm like,
now you can't. Now you can't stop thinking about it.
So I'll do it to everybody else. No.
Thank you.
So, I think I know where you're going. So Tala volunteers to go back undercover as an Imperial officer to get him into the fortress, to get Obi-Wan into the fortress. And their extraction plan is these speeders that will show up at later. The fortress doesn't have shields and apparently doesn't have anti-air turbo laser emplacements.
Or radar.
Right. Which, well, if you come in low enough, you fool the sensors. But
a lot of TIE fighters.
Or blaster-resistant windows.
Yes. Well, I'm guessing the lack of shielding, the lack of anti-air is really more of Imperial arrogance, right?
Yeah.
The Imperial. We've seen this since the episode 4. The Imperials didn't think starfighters could scratch the paint on the Death Star, and this is a fundamental part of Star Wars: is that Imperials are arrogant and overlook the small important details.
But just in case, we're going to put 100 or so seeker droids on the fortress for all the people that get by our lack of defense.
I have a theory real quick that the TIE fighters are not real, but it was like a cost saving thing, you know, like those fake security cameras that you can like put up to make someone
that
think
would make
you have security.
Whole lot more sense now.
Well, you don't see any pilots, right? You just see a bunch of officers and stormtroopers. So
and the ending of this episode makes a lot more sense too.
It does.
We'll get there.
Thank you for fixing that in my brain.
That's a big problem I had.
That one's for father. That's a headcanon thing now. So.
There you go. Good. They had a parts shortage, and they had some supply chain issues. So the Kenobi and Tala are on this Imperial shuttle and heading toward Nur, and he's trying to use the Force to drag a widget across the table and struggling because he's not been using the Force. His connection to the Force is still weak. And Tala says to him, some things take time to heal. And he says, some things can't be forgotten. And I'm wondering, what is he referring to? What is the connection between healing and forgotten? And Angela, I'm wondering if you, particularly given what you said earlier, have an idea of that.
Okay, well, her full line is, your body is not the only thing that needs to heal, Ben. The past is a hard thing to forget. You just need time. And that's when he says some things can't be forgotten. To me, that called to mind the phrase forgive and forget, that people kind of have as this, this cliche about how you're supposed to just move on with your life. And I think that's sort of what he's wrestling with, kind of like I alluded to before, that, what he really needs, healing, is about integrating your hurt, your pain, into your present self, right? And being able to do that in a healthy way. And he doesn't know how to do that. I don't think that Jedi really taught him, I guess, like how to do that. So I think that's the connection there. And it has to do with what she says. The past is a hard thing to forget.
The Jedi are pretty emotionally stunted as a whole. I think I think that was the lesson of the prequels, is they're pretty emotionally, they are not in a good place.
And I think also the higher you get in the ranks of the Jedi, the more you have that, because what you see here is a man who's never had to deal with failure, and anybody who's learned anything, unless they're a prodigy, has had to deal with failure to overcome. That's how you learn. That's how you get better. And so what you have is a guy who never really had to deal with failure throughout his rise through the Jedi ranks, except for like the singular event of losing his master to Darth Maul. And so all of the failure that he's dealt with in his life has been around Sith. It hasn't been around anything that he's had to deal with. And so now the Sith are in power. So where does he go from there? And I think that it adds a layer to him when you think of it that way.
I would say it's not so much failure, because having Anakin by his side in battle, there's a lot of things that go wrong. But I would say it's more so about losing someone that means something to you and really feeling that. I don't think he's been able to get over losing Qui-Gon. And I also think the way that he lost Anakin, he doesn't know how to deal with that. So I think it more so has to do with the anti-attachment doctrine of the Jedi, that he just doesn't know how to integrate this stuff properly.
Well, and obviously he didn't just lose Anakin either. He was betrayed.
Right.
And not just him, but everybody. It's like the worst thing that could have happened that no one could have imagined. It just keeps getting worse. And I did, I go back and forth on that whole Vader scene from episode 3 here. I should say part 3, because it keeps confusing me. I say like episode 2. Part 3 with, just so unapologetically charging down the street, choking people, dragging people, snapping people's necks. Like to me, it's like, even in the original movies, like Obi-Wan, Luke could not put a dent in Force Ghost Ben's, notion of any redeemability whatsoever, if that's a word, for Anakin. He's more machine now, more machine now than man, twisted and evil. There's not even any, like, Ben doesn't even like pause to think of, oh yes, that would be nice if he could be saved. It's like, no, he can't be. So it's like, I feel like we have to kind of get him a little bit closer to that hopelessness in a sense towards Anakin, and maybe, like you guys are saying, I think the letting go is gonna be kind of that in a lot of ways, because we know he has to get to that point where he doesn't really have any hope for him anymore. Now it's about, how do I help those that he's trying to harm? And I imagine he sees that, because he says, "I've failed you, Anakin." Like he's taking all this blame on himself. I feel like that's going to be that motivating, like, what can I do now? I can't do anything for him, or so he thinks. And the only one who really could was Luke, So yeah, I think there are some good seeds here. We'll just have to see what they do with them.
There's also the responsibility of, what he's unleashed on the galaxy. He who's the last one who had this? You did. You had Anakin. And what happened to him? Well,
I
like
thought
you
you
said,
were watching him.
He tried. Oh, really? He trots down the street and snaps necks and pulls people up.
Dude, you had the high ground.
Yeah. So, and he had a chance to kill him and left him. There's, that's got to be part of it. This is all. I probably shouldn't be doing this anymore. He's saying, I thought I could train him as well as Yoda. I was wrong.
So then we have the infiltration of the fortress, and Tala lands unannounced, uncalled for on Nur, and talks arrogant Imperial to get past the checkpoint, which is a nice thing. Although she's a little tiny flaws in the writing, things like she says to the guard, "I'm your commanding officer," which she wouldn't be. She means superior officer, and it's like that's a small detail, but that's a someone let that slip through. Like
it's an easy one to get right.
Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. But then we have a callback to episode 1, where Obi-Wan swimming through the ocean with the little Jedi breathers to get to infiltrate the fortress instead of Naboo.
He still has his Jedi breather.
Yes. Those things are like gold. And
I can't believe he didn't throw it away on Tatooine for 10 years.
He dug it up.
You never know.
He's like me. He's like, I just... maybe.
Did you see his hut in episode 4? It was filled with junk, all kinds of stuff.
That's true.
So he comes up to the I always think of it as like the James Bond, port. What was it, Thunderball? Where the yacht had that. So I always think of that as a James Bond port. And he comes up and he takes out that poor stormtrooper pretty darn quick. No lightsaber needed. He just does something off screen to him and tosses his body into the water.
I feel like the lightsaber would have hurt less.
Yeah.
Like that's cool.
And my kids all complain. Why did he not take the stormtrooper's outfit?
That's what I was just gonna say. I was ready for he's gonna throw back to A New Hope, and he's gonna be wearing
I can't see a thing in this helmet.
He's a little tall for a stormtrooper, I think, is the problem. So then we have Reva again trying to use the Force to read Leia's mind, who sassily asks, "Is this a staring contest?" It's like, that is total 9-year-old. That is.
She's growing on me.
Yeah,
she's really growing on me at this point. Any problems I had with the actress who was playing Leia, not anymore. She's good.
And when that fails, and Reva says you have a very strong mind, which is interesting given who she will turn out to be. Leia releases Lola surreptitiously, but Reva catches it, and we find some things out about Reva. So she says she learned at a young age that the braver you are, the more scared you are. The braver you act, the more scared you are. She owned a droid when she was young that was taken from her, and she knows what it's like to be alone. So these are some interesting biographical points that we're learning, and that may feed into, Thomas, your theory about who she really is, which is, I think a lot of people have kind of come up with this idea that she's a former youngling.
Can I add to that too?
Yes.
So she says that the droid, her droid was taken from her, like everything else was taken from her.
Right.
And if you notice, all of her threats to people are, when she's talking to them, she's saying, these people won't come help you. They have abandoned you. They're not coming for you. So she has abandonment issues. I'm 100% convinced of that.
Yeah. This totally reads like youngling who survived Order 66. Yeah.
But I want to point out she has not turned to the Empire as filling that void, because she never mentions that this is the only thing that's stable. This is the only thing that's good. And that's, if you're going to write a character that's really turning dark, the best way to do it would be to make her embrace that, cult mentality of it. And they don't do that with her. So I'm still holding to this, she's got ulterior motives with this rising the ranks of the Inquisitors.
She reminds me of Killmonger, Eric Killmonger from Black Panther.
Yeah.
To where she has a vendetta. She's doing whatever she personally can to, and it was a personal thing. It was something really personal that she's taking personal, and she's trying to get power to get what's hers.
Yeah. That's an interesting concept.
Yeah, she's just not written nearly as well.
Well,
I think that's the issue.
So I assume we'll have more on that as we go along. But so we have a scene where Tala is guiding Obi-Wan through the corridors from a console in the operations room or something like that. She straight up murders an officer in the back of the office and leaves his body there. That was good. I'm like
20 feet behind everybody sitting at their computers.
Yeah, it was like right there.
Somebody's going to see that.
Like, come on.
She's like, goes back. Sorry, I had to kill a guy. No, she didn't say that, to be fair. But I was just like, does no one... You know what, though? Maybe these guys... Maybe I'm wrong about this. Maybe these officers are trained so well they don't eavesdrop.
Yeah.
Because I do all the time. I can't help it. I don't want to. It's sinful. But it's like... Where did she just go? Like,
you're sitting 3 feet from me and talking about the schematics, like
secret droids.
It's the
guy's checking his email. He's like,
gossip.
did you hear that loud crunch noise and the fall to the ground?
Yeah, they're probably just used to their their colleagues just dropping dead for no reason. I mean, I'm sure Vader does it for fun.
Yeah.
Right?
Vader must have did it through the communications comm.
Yeah.
I didn't see him in here.
There's one slight flaw in the way they do things that is just I think they do it because it was in episode 4, which is the fact that the comm links don't have an earpiece. That comm links that the voice comes right out of the device in the hand. That's because that's what they did in episode 4. It's the same comm link, and it provides some dramatic issues in this episode.
There's also no email in Star Wars.
There is no email in Star Wars. That's right. There are no texting messages.
Yeah, you got to get a droid to project a video for you.
It features so heavily that it made me go back and look at these, and we're in episode 4. This reflects episode 4. If you go back and look at episode 3, it reflects episode 3 from Star Wars, because it ends with this dramatic lightsaber fight between Obi-Wan and Vader. And like a lot of the stuff. Episode 2, same way. You can draw a lot of parallels in each one of these to the original or to the movies, the way that they were presented. So I'm anticipating that the next 2 we're going to get some more of that, where the next one's going to be a little bit more like Empire, and then the final one's going to be a little bit more like
Return of the Jedi.
Who was the Jamaican comedy relief in episode 1?
That's a good question.
I would love Ahmed Best in this series. Oh, that'd be great.
As long as they don't have Leia get frozen in carbonite in the next episode, and I'm like, and again, she's
you had Camille. You had Camille. You had the false Jedi, right? So that's sort of your your comedy relief. I think they're pretty close. They're pretty close.
Fun.
I'm interesting that episode 6 is Return of the Jedi, and that's I think where we're going is to Return the Jedi. But that's the future. So as Obi-Wan is sneaking through the Death Star, the Fortress Inquisitorius, we have this moment where he has to hide from stormtroopers, and when he makes the noise, just like the distracting noise, just like he will,
just like A New Hope.
In A New Hope. And the stormtrooper says, "Did you hear that?" And it is, I think they lifted that directly out of the stormtroopers outside the Millennium Falcon when they lured them in to take their uniforms. That's totally, I think, the same line. It sounded exactly the same to me. I didn't go back and watch A New Hope to confirm that, but
did you guys catch the stormtrooper chatter too, where the one is like, "Oh, this place gives me the creeps. Oh, hopefully we won't be stationed here for long."
They're honest.
Yes. The stormtrooper chatter in some of these, like in Rogue One with the new speeders, and I like the fact that they put in stormtrooper chatter just like episode 4 had. So I like it. So Reva, now that the mind control and telling her that everyone is dead and is turned against her didn't work, has decided to play good cop, forgetting that you need 2 people to play good cop, bad cop. So she's...
Unless you're Steve Martin in the Pink Panther.
Oh, right. That's right. That's right. So she tries to gain Leia's sympathy by saying, "We're all on the same side here." So Leia says, "Okay, so I'll tell you everything I know about the path, but let me tell my father first, since, like you said, we're all on the same side, right?" Like, very clever girl. She'll be, in 5 years, she'll be sneaking ships to the rebellion as a 16-year-old. That's clear. So Reva is done with, she's, her patience is done, and so now she's going to torture a child. So, did you notice that the torture chair also makes the same sound as the interrogation droid on the Death Star? So more parallelism here.
Mm-hmm.
They have a giant room that they use for torturing people.
That's what I was going to say.
Everything's
it just
really
looks
big
that
in
way
this.
because Leia's so small.
Yeah.
Well,
If Chewbacca was
like,
in there, it would be like, oh.
I thought the same thing about Tala's ship, right? So they're sitting on Tala's ship, and she's got this cockpit up front that's huge. Like, it was just an enormous cockpit that she was sitting in, and it was her by herself, like one chair in the middle of this gigantic. And all the other cockpits have been very, like, the Millennium Falcon's cockpit's like super tiny, and you got Chewie and Han both in there.
The Empire likes things big. Make it bigger. I can see the architect with the plans for the fortress. No, bigger, says the Inquisitor. So Kenobi finds the secure sector with the red Imperial logo, you notice on the doors, and it's filled with the bodies of dead Jedi and Force sensitives. And I wasn't it wasn't clear to me at first that they were dead and not in like frozen in carbonate, sort of suspended.
It's like yellow jello.
It's like amber. That's what it
right.
reminds me of.
That's it. Yeah.
Frozen in amber. Why?
Jurassic Park.
Yeah, right. They'll make new Jedi in a million years. Yeah. Why would they keep the bodies? Theories?
Well, that's exactly it. Because of Palpatine.
Research.
Cloning. Right? Like, why do they want Grogu?
I actually have a different theory on this one, and I think this is something that's going to come up because they've talked a little bit about why Rey's so powerful in the sequel trilogy, and there've been a lot of attempts to backfill this. And so what some people have been talking about with it is that there is a lack of Force powers that are being distributed to people because all of these Jedi's bodies haven't been given back to the universe. And so I think that's what's going on here is that they're being kept so that the people who remain, the people who do have Force powers that remain, are more powerful because there isn't a distribution of the power back to other people as they're being either reborn or something like that. But that it's concentrating the power down into whoever does remain. And that's what the Emperor wants, is that the two Sith stay very powerful because there is no other distribution of the Force outside of them.
Is that a metachlorian thing?
I don't know that. I don't know if they're going to go that far. I
heard one time that
thing, right? It's
like how my Wi-Fi works. You know, you have too many people on one network.
Yeah. Well, I read once that Darth Vader lost metachlorians when he lost limbs, and so he became less powerful. I mean, I only heard one person say it. It sounded kind of funky, but you know, when you say like these bodies aren't redistributing, you know, whatever back into the Force.
So like the Force is concentrated in the physical body of the people, which is also connected to when Obi-Wan dies, his body, you know, when people become Force ghosts, their bodies dissolve, that sort of thing, except for Qui-Gon, but we won't go there. We don't know. We don't know we never saw what happened to Qui-Gon's body, so that could have happened.
Well, it was burned.
No, yeah, it did get burned.
On that giant pyre.
It did get burned.
Oh, right.
Or they made it look like it burned.
That's true.
Just like in Clone Wars when they faked Obi-Wan's death.
Yes.
Luminous beings, are we?
That's dark. Funny enough.
Yeah. So, luminous. So, okay, so they're keeping the bodies in there, and Obi-Wan is so shocked that he's kind of stunned and not continuing to look for Leia until he sees a youngling frozen in there, and that's what reminds him. And that's when he hears Leia calling for help.
It's like, yeah, man, why are you walking so slow? Like, you gotta
hurry up!
Like, I gotta save somebody.
He's got a map. He's like walking around, like turn left. Yeah.
I thought really interesting here was that there were no noticeable characters, like no figures that we know.
I was gonna say,
unless you're super
there was like one obscure like Clone Wars
right. I mean, there were deep cuts, right? But there were
deep cuts.
There was no like you didn't see a Plo Koon or you know,
you wouldn't. Plo Koon was in the fighter. Boom. Remember, his fighter got blown up. Yeah, but I know what you're saying. You don't see any of the other Jedi we saw from Clone Wars or.
Did you guys notice one from Clone Wars? Like the first one? I think he was like, he helped them in the library in Clone Wars when Ahsoka
there was a librarian that's who helped
I want to
somebody.
say that's, I
Okay.
heard somebody say that. I don't know.
Yeah, I heard the same thing.
Did you guys notice the first time? Because I didn't until I watched it the second time that it happened kind of quick. I didn't notice it was 2 levels. And then the second time, it was very clearly 2 levels. I was just sort of looking at the ground level, I guess. But that was just like the scale of it was interesting to me. Because like how, again, like they hinted at that earlier, like how deep does this thing go? How big is this? What's down there? So,
right.
Yeah, that was neat.
This is a big tomb.
Yeah.
So Kenobi needs a distraction to rescue Leia. So he calms Tala. And so Tala's idea is to ask to meet with Reva to give her a story. And Reva immediately smells a rat, which is, it's good. I don't want the bad guys to be too dumb and fall for things. So she immediately smells like, this is strange. Why are you here? And Tala does the tell a lie with the truth. Oh, I'm a spy. And then she spins it a little bit and it's not working. But that's when Kenobi takes out the 2 stormtroopers in the dark, which like the first stormtrooper, well, he didn't react fast enough when the lights went out. The second stormtrooper, I don't know what you're doing. Like, why are you standing there when you saw a lightsaber, just take out the other guy? But okay.
He's like, there's no way out. I'm like, well,
I'm diving for the floor or something,
maybe for you, there's no way out.
So while when he takes out those stormtroopers and the power goes out, and that's when Reva runs off and she says to the stormtroopers guarding Tala, take her. And Tala escapes from those stormtroopers pretty readily. Those guys were also, these are not the cream of the stormtrooper crop here. Let's just say.
All you have to do is slap them in the helmet.
Yeah, she does an illegal Pittsburgh Steelers slap to the head of the stormtrooper. It totally stuns him.
You do what you got to do to get that blaster.
That's right.
Again, I wonder, what is the stormtrooper armor actually for?
Or is this all a ploy? Is this Reva's plan to let them escape, like in episode 4? Which I want to get to that again because she's got Lola already set up with a tracker. She's did she know this was all coming? So Kenobi has Leia. They get cornered in a hallway underwater with windows that get damaged by a stray blaster bolt. Did you notice he's still not as good with that saber deflecting blaster bolts as he was in Clone Wars? He's still not as readily. His ability with the Force has improved since the shuttle, because maybe because of need and all that sort of stuff. But he's still not quite there yet, which is interesting.
He did the spinorama thing.
Well, my pros column, I put down like I gave a big thumbs up to the Ewan and the lightsaber stuff in this one, because I think you're right. Like, it's definitely clunky, but I think it's on purpose.
Yeah,
and it's, I don't know. I liked it. I thought, if he's too good right now, it's going to be like, okay, so he's not quite back yet. But I was glad that I felt like he was more himself than he's been in this show. Mm-hmm. By a long shot compared to like the previous episode. So, as someone who loves his character, I was like, oh yeah, there he is. Okay, like, all right. So that was kind of cool. And by the way, and Thomas, you can maybe, like, we've been talking about this too, but I'm just curious if it comes up later even. But I just think the lightsaber looks so great. So I just think yeah. And that was another thing I wrote down. I was like, it just looks really good.
It's a physical lit prop.
Right. It just looks more real.
Much of a difference. Yeah. It really does. I'm loving it. This is the first series that they've used the actual Force effects lightsabers.
Yeah.
In so not even in the sequel trilogy they really use the Force effects lightsabers.
Did they use it for Ahsoka's lightsaber though in The Mandalorian?
I don't believe so, because I don't think that they had. I think they have the blue and the red ones down. I don't know that they have the white ones down yet. Well, no, because she's lit from the lightsaber too, though. So
yeah, they had a physical prop.
That.
I think from the behind the scenes they did they showed that. But yeah, you're right. It is, and you too can go out and buy one yourself. They're on Amazon even. You can have your own lightsaber for $500. But they're awesome. I mean, it looks fantastic, and I'm so glad they're using.
They're way better than these two behind me on the wall, but they've come a long way.
Yes. Did you notice there's among the stormtroopers was a purge trooper? We see several of them in this episode.
Oh yeah.
They originally showed up in the comics, the Darth Vader series of the comics, and they also show up in the Jedi Fallen Order video game. And they apparently are originally former clones who still have the Order 66 programming active in them, and so they are Jedi hunters, basically. And
Crosshair.
Yeah, right. Crosshair would be an example.
Where is he at? I mean, well,
yeah,
we'll get to that later. Maybe.
So, and I really like this scene where Kenobi holds the broken window while Tala is getting Leia away and getting the Imperials into position so that he can break it and push the water at them while he runs out and doesn't get a drop on him.
Well, the Force is definitely with him because it's like he can't do it on command. It seems. Well, I mean, like unless it's an emergency, but like he saved Leia. He stops this window. Like it's definitely knocking.
Yep. So then we get what might be the scene that I have the hardest time with in this whole episode. It starts with the improbable sight of Kenobi walking with a big trench coat with Leia under it and nobody noticing. I'm sorry.
Did anyone else think of Austin Powers with him on Manini?
Yes.
I couldn't understand it. Just like he wasn't doing that with his arms.
This scene could have easily been saved if like they just were a little self-aware. Like if Obi-Wan was like, is this really going to work? Like if he goes to Tala, is this really going to work? Like if they were just a little more self-aware, like this is ridiculous.
Yeah.
This isn't going to work. Why didn't you say so before?
The only guy with a beard.
They were really getting away with it there. And like, they were really like seriously like doing this thing like this. I mean, it worked in Little Rascals, I guess.
A stormtrooper costume for him and her in some sort of cargo thing. And you don't have this problem, but I don't know.
Yeah. There's so many things they could have done differently.
It was weird.
Yeah, it was weird. Yeah, there's so much more I could say, but yeah, I mean, it's that was I don't get what they were going with that.
Yeah. Oh, look, that guy must be an Imperial officer from the Malapropan race who have 4 legs instead of 2. Yeah, it was
with a little girl peeking out.
Right. So, speeder rescue. Speeders swoop in and blast everything. Although before we get to that, the stormtroopers surround Tala and Kenobi, aiming their weapons at them, and Imperials are still walking around like there's nothing going on between the stormtroopers and the escapees. Like you're literally walking through the line of fire, folks, like as if it's a summer day, you're out for a stroll. It was weird. Like that's a directorial problem. Like the director totally, like Deborah Chow, totally messed that up. That's just a straight up error on her part that they wouldn't have stopped people from walking.
Yeah, it's there are a bunch of NPCs.
Right.
Just around. Yeah, it's like a video game. It's like
right.
They just weren't fully processed in the during the rendering.
Yeah, it was very strange.
There was an odd moment earlier too that bothered me. When the 2 other Inquisitors were walking through the hallway doing something, I don't even remember what it was. They had these 2 stormtroopers walk behind them, and they were very clearly CGI'd stormtroopers. Like it almost looked like they were covering something up. Like I'm wondering if there wasn't something else that had been shot
the same
there.
Thing, yeah,
the jeans guy from Mandalorian.
Yeah. It was just so weird. Yeah. So I don't know. Little stuff like that. And I don't know, there's so much polish in some areas of the show that there's other spots where it's like, wow, this and that kind of stuff just pops out at you. And we have another one coming up in a minute that just really stuck out like a sore thumb to me. And things were going really well. And I don't complain about this much, but it breaks your immersion when you have those sore thumb moments where just everything's going great, and then all of a sudden we get the scene that just wasn't processed properly. It's like, oh, somebody should have thought about that a little better.
Yeah, I wonder if that had anything to do with the debut kind of being postponed.
Mm-hmm.
Like maybe they had to CGI a few things out.
I wonder.
Oh, from the beginning of May to the end of May. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or maybe,
yeah. That's
and then the shift 2 more days.
Right. Interesting. So we have this scene where the speeders come in to rescue them, blasting everything to Kingdom Come on the launch pad. These non-soldier flyers who apparently, the Fortress Inquisitorius. It was too easy. And maybe that's why, maybe it's too easy because they're trying to let them go to lead them back to the path, right? That's the parallelism to episode 4.
Yeah. But they still would have had to have communicated that so quickly across the entire Fortress Inquisitorius that it's just like nobody bothered to set up an E-web as soon as these things came in. And, like you don't have anybody running out ammunition or, something that's going to be able to take them down.
Well, the battery, fling a battery at him. That'll do it.
I guess it could have been, her, if she's smart enough, it could have been her plan all along. That she, once she had Leia at Fortress Inquisitorius, it was like, okay, memo to all that if Kenobi comes, I'm gonna put a tracker with him and he's gonna lead us somewhere. And I don't know, maybe
could be.
It's kind of hard to believe.
Yeah.
Because like you can't predict what was going to happen. Once Obi-Wan infiltrated, it's she has to have a lot of foresight. And again, even if that ends up being the case, hypothetically, that she's had this massive plan. This is my problem with, Reva's character in general. Like is this so poorly written? Like as far as like her motivations, like we get a little more glimpses, like we were talking about earlier. Like, but it's mostly theoretical. Like, oh, maybe she's a youngling. Maybe she has a bigger plan up her sleeve. But like again, 4 episodes in, 2 left. Like if all these big reveals start happening about her character, and then we got to pack in all the Obi-Wan and Anakin stuff, and making sure Leia gets home safely. Like that's a lot to pack into 2 episodes. I have no confidence that they're going to really do it justice. And I feel like, again, I mean, Moses Ingram and the whole cast, they're great. I mean, they're really good actors. Ewan is Obi-Wan. It's really a slam dunk cast, and I've loved Leia's character from the beginning. So, but the issue is like we're at the finish line now. I mean, we're at least staring at the finish line, and we come away with this episode with a lot of, again, theories that might be cool and might end up working out, but I don't think all of them are gonna really pay off. And it's, I think that's the frustrating thing. I mean, I think scenes like that, especially at the end where like literally, I mean, okay, no one's gonna go after them. Like there's not one show. Oh, they're gone. Like, and that's it. Like it really took me out of it. And there were, I mean, as much as I'm bashing on this episode, there are a lot of things that I liked. Mostly just getting to see Obi-Wan get in touch with the Force again, I think was at least one objective that they sort of completed. But yeah, I'm curious to see how they rein in the third sister and that character, because I really think it's a shame, the way she's been written. I mean, the fifth brother, I think, is way more interesting so far. Just because, I mean, just for the fact that he's kind of funny, and just like they're just like a bunch of children, like trying to get, Darth Vader's approval.
I don't
and
really know.
Darth Vader could have easily killed Reva. I mean, why did he let her live? I mean, all right, like I feel like Darth Vader, you know, the Darth Vader that I would have thought of, the way I would have maybe written that scene, is I would have killed her. I'd be like, okay, cool. We still have the tracker.
Let's get to that in a second, because I think Mike wants to mention something. Mike Creevy.
It's related, and we can come back to it. I just want to mention in passing, because one of my notes was just, you know, what are the Inquisitors even good for? You know, and it's just tough, because it's like, you and I say this in all fairness, like, I don't really know, I haven't really fleshed out my mind, like, what realistically I'd want to see them doing. So I'm not just like sharpshooting, you know. I try to espouse in my life that thing of like, don't just complain if you don't have a solution for it. So I like, you know, like, I feel like we always have good, like, well, I think it could have been this way. So to be fair, that's my little disclaimer, but I just like, all they've done since episode 1 is just storm around angrily.
Right. Honestly, that's what they do. That's what they do in Rebels. I mean, that's what they're really not that. I mean, in my opinion, they're really not that interesting, even in the animated series.
Not interesting.
I think it just would have been like, you know, if the fifth brother, if you even just saw him with a lightsaber out, you know, in that like, he just walks up and she's there. She's like, you know, I mean, go help her out, for God's sake. You know, like, I mean, like, she's out there deflecting blasters, and he just charges upstairs at her and growls and walks away. And again, I'm not picking on him, because like Andrew was saying, I think the casting's so good. I just feel like I kind of wish they would have given him more to do than just be like mad at her all the time. Yeah. You know, but I don't know. I mean, again, there's 2 episodes left. You know, we'll see.
And are we all in agreement that the Grand Inquisitor is still alive, or is going to come back?
Yeah, I think he has to be.
Yeah, right. Because
he's in Rebels.
They're not ruined. Exactly. So, because there's like that argument, like, oh, they don't care. They don't care about you know, changing canon here and there. But I feel so. I just want to.
I think they're not as up to speed with some of it as they should be, but I don't think they can let.
I agree. I feel like the writers of the show are not, but I think that's a big one to miss. So yeah, I think
he'll be back. I just wonder how you do it.
Yeah.
Well, do you remember what I said at the beginning of my ABCs?
Oh yeah,
Grand Inquisitor, 2 stomachs.
His
species has 2 stomachs.
Yep.
So my theory is he's just in a really long back to bath.
Yep.
Yeah.
Surprise. So,
and I'm curious of the force choking by Vader elevation. Is this a phase he goes through, or he just kind of likes to elevate them, but then if you're an Imperial officer, I just prefer to be more calm about it?
Well, I think what we're seeing is Vader at 2 different periods in his life. He's only 10 years out from the Mustafar incident, and he's still angry. He's still boiling over with emotion. By the time we get to A New Hope, he's he's still kind of angry all the time. He's just like, but he's a calm angry. He's not like flailing around and like visibly like this. And so I think we're going to see a change in him as well as a change in Kenobi at least I hope so.
And that's something real quick, because a friend of mine changed my mind on that, because that's the other thing I was going to connect was it was cool, but like I was really kind of off put by him, how fast he was charging down the hallway and like walking up to her real fast, because it's like, Vader doesn't walk like that. But then my friend reminded me, he's like, well, you know, he's
Christian Hayden. Yeah.
He's
Anakin Skywalker.
Right, Anakin still, he's hot. He's a hothead. And I kind of like this idea of like, give him 9 years and I don't need to charge her. Like, I'm going to very slowly, casually stroll behind Tarkin and I find her like a fifth disturbing, because it's like, I think that, I like that now, that idea of like, he's going to kind of, like, he doesn't need to prove himself anymore. Like, he's like 10 years more down the road or so. He's like, you
hit your 40s, you slow down a lot. You know?
That's what I said. I don't even walk as fast as I used to, you know? Like, I don't.
Choking Ozzel through the comm.
He doesn't even raise his hand. He's just sitting in the egg thing.
Just sitting there, and okay, you're almost dead. I need to promote the other guy and give him some orders.
Yep.
So let's just move this along.
But Reva does reveal that she placed a tracker on the ship. Now, in A New Hope, they placed a tracker on the Falcon, but at least they make a modicum of, hey, we're going to make it look like we're trying to get you back by sending TIE fighters after you, and they have to fight their way free. And even then, they know that they got away too easy. They know that they're being tracked, right? So, but in this, we don't get that. We don't even get, we have to fight our way out of this. and we know we're being tracked. We just kind of leave that on the floor.
Yeah.
So
hopefully they bring it up at the beginning of the next part.
I do have to say one thing quick. As a former Army officer, I think this is a wrong thing with the Vader scene. He's like proud of her that she's tracking. I think, well, hold on a minute, let's back up here. Because what he should have said was, what did you place the tracker in? He's like, I placed it in her droid. When did you have her droid? Well, she flung it at me during the interrogation. What, we don't search people anymore? Nobody searches any. You just bring a prisoner. This is the second time in the show that no one searched this girl after they tied her up. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, I know that shouldn't bother me. I know, but it's a little annoying.
Right.
No one's patting her down. Like,
well, here's another thing that
what
bothers
if she had a
me.
blaster?
Here's another thing that bothers me about putting the tracker in this droid, and maybe someone can clear this up for me. Like, where else do they think she's going other than back to, Bill Organa and her parents? Like, wouldn't they just find her there again? Like, aren't they going to take her back to her parents safely? Like, where else do they think, like, do they really think they're going to bring Leia along, like, to the path or whatever, or some other mission? Like,
right.
That sort of confused me too. That take her home. What was the point of the tracker? Like, you would assume, and I would hope that Obi-Wan just takes her back to her parents, her foster parents, right? The Organas, and then go and do whatever the heck he wants to do.
She
I
runs
felt like
up
it
the
wasn't
next
that
day.
big of like a bomb. Like, oh, the tracker's in the droid. Like, well, where the heck are they going? I feel like they know where they're going.
She runs up to go play in the woods the next
me.
time, and it's not Flea, but it's Anthony Kiedis. Like, they just keep recycling through members of Red Hot Chili Peppers.
Well, it could be that, so with the tracker, how we've gotten in the animated series that the Empire found a way to track people through light speed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So, they could catch up to them in space, not necessarily just find them on a planet somewhere. And the other thing too is she probably knows that Obi-Wan doesn't have his own ship.
Right.
Like, probably he's being helped along the way because he was, half dead on that other planet. And, somebody must have helped him. Well, they did say he had help, right? So their intelligence knew that he had help and he got off the planet. So maybe they want to know, who's helping him. Somebody's helping him. Maybe it's these path people.
Yeah.
I think the other answer too is, the droid turned evil. Its eyes are red. It's probably not going to stick around with Leia. It's probably going to, look for something that she programmed it to look for. Stick with Obi-Wan, whatever, so that it's more than just where she placed the tracker, but she reprogrammed the robot.
Okay, that I can roll with. We'll see what
we'll see what happens, but that would make
the
most sense.
That makes sense. Yeah.
By the way, the Jedi that was from the animated series, the animated series Clone Wars, was Terra Sanuba. Was the and Wikipedia has an article, of course, on Terra Sanuba, so you can check him out.
Now, before we wrap up, I have to comment on the one scene that really bothered me from this one, because this one, in my opinion, was better than the last episode. I liked this one better because it didn't have quite as many continuity issues for me. It didn't break up the Star Wars story as is quite as much. But the scene where the speeder comes in and is like facing off with Reva, and you see the two of them on screen at the same time, it just felt decidedly small screen. Like there was just something about it that if you had seen it in the movie theaters, maybe it would have played okay. But on the TV, it was just like, wow, that looks very made for TV. And that one was the one that kind of just yanked me right out of the
quality of the CGI and
yeah, I'm not sure. Just something about the framing of it, the quality of the CGI, the way that things were. Just there was
something
a lot of
off.
Stuff there that bothered me. Yeah,
something was off. I agree. It said something. Yeah, it said that to me too. Like there's something not quite right about the way the technical aspect of this, just the way it looked. Yeah.
Well, and can I ask a quick question? Just and we might not get to it till. I don't think we don't know, but I'm just curious if anyone has any theories, because I'm just something is still really bothering me that I brought up last week, and it's it's like Vader, all the Inquisitors, all the people at this fortress, or at least the officers, like there's this wide network of people who know that the Princess of Alderaan and Obi-Wan Kenobi are connected, and he was called for by her dad. Like, I just, it's this huge problem for me that now we know, there's no question about it. We're going 9 years now after this with no consequences whatsoever for Bail, for Leia. I don't get how they pull that off. And I hope to God that's not just a huge thing that they blew it and ignored that, or just didn't think about that. I find it hard to believe.
There's got to be some dialogue, a scene.
Yeah, there's just no, like Vader's talking to Bail, like, did you call for Obi-Wan? No, I didn't. Okay, like it's not.
Yeah. But then that leads to a whole nother series of questions.
Yeah.
How did he know? Why is he chasing Leia down? And that leads to a whole nother set of issues that, well, if Bail didn't send him after Leia, then Leia's important for another reason.
So Bail posted it on Galaxy Book and in the old Veterans of the Clone Wars group, and that's where he must have seen it.
I just
maybe yeah.
I mean, is it Bail's not fooling anybody and they're just kind of letting him go? I mean, is it more like, why haven't they arrested him and thrown him in jail?
Yeah, I feel like that's it, because in the other Star Wars content that we have, like, it seems like Bail Organa is already suspect by the Empire.
Yeah, they don't trust
his
him,
resources. And I wonder if we're going to see more of that in Andor, like with Mon Mothma being part of the picture. Like, if we're going to see sort of how he deals with the political situation and how people regard him. I don't know, but that's been my impression, like, especially after reading Bloodline and some of the other things like out there, that I don't know, it just, the very beginning of A New Hope, it's like Vader gets on that ship and he's like, I know that there's some stuff going down, and now that I know all these things, it's like, maybe it wasn't just because they got one transmission. Maybe it was just like, dude, this is Bail's ship. Like, there's stuff happening.
And seriously, diplomatic community only goes so far.
There's pretty clearly some background suspicion Vader has specifically about Leia, not who she is, but as when she's 19, he's already like, don't act so surprised, Your Highness. You weren't, and he's just like, you almost get the impression she's gotten away before from him.
She's gonna rep,
right. Like you weren't on any merciful mission this time. It's just like he's like, I got you now. Like, I've been trying to get you for a while, but there's no remote evidence, of course, in the originals that there's this like connection to Kenobi that he knows of. But yeah, that's another. Just wondering.
Yeah, I just, in the end, all we can do is hope that they tie that off somehow and they give us some explanation for the discontinuity we have in this series from what we've known before. How does this fit in here? And they did that with Rogue One. They gave us some of that, and they've with a lot of these series that they've plugged in between the prequels and the originals. They've tried to give us some interesting drama while also making the continuity work. We can only hope that they do the same.
I'll tell you what, I'd love to see a scene with Vader and having to be restrained in front of Bail Organa, reprimanding him, but not being able to, just outright force choke him into submission.
Right.
It would be interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Are you suggesting that we made Kenobi so that we can make this movie to explain the Kenobi series?
That would be nice. Now, remind me, are we going to see Ian McDiarmid? I mean, were we told that he's in this?
He said something about like looming large or something like that, but there was no, how he is. It's very
he said
coy
no
about it, but
at the panel that on the was it the main stage or was it one of the other side stages?
I should say episode 6. We're going to see him because we're heading towards that.
Yeah.
But we're just going to get him. We're going to get a hologram of him in 5. And then
he's got Obi-Wan. He's like, you will pay the price for your lack of visuals. Like, oh, guys, come on. We got to write our own stuff.
At some point.
Like, darn it. He was, by the way, my age when 1 year younger than me, apparently. I've forgotten that. When he first, played Palpatine back in 83.
Wow.
So makeup can do wonders, right? It's like 120 or something. And then he said how like it was just like he was just managing theaters and doing stage, and every couple of years a Star Wars movie would come around. And he's just, I love him. He's so gentle, oddly enough.
Excellent.
Or is he?
So let's wrap things up, and I want to get your final thoughts, starting with Angela. Well, I'm going to go down my screen here. Final thoughts on part 4.
Well, my final thought will be on that final scene where Leia's hand, she's kind of like looking up to Obi-Wan, comforting him. Just his expression, it really made me think that part of this series must be just showing how Obi-Wan does sort of heal, and maybe Leia has to do with that, has to do with his healing process. So that was kind of like a aha sort of, I hope, moment, that I hope that that's what they are taking into consideration with the writing here. But overall, there's little things here and there. I'm happy. I'm enjoying the ride, and I'm loving the new characters and the new kind of tie-ins and things like that. So yeah.
Awesome. Mike Creevy, final thoughts?
I really agree with Angela about Obi-Wan and Leia, and just really the heart of the show. And I think their chemistry is outstanding. And it just reminds me of my favorite, I think I brought it up many times probably before, but my favorite line actually from the sequel trilogy, which is, well, I always joke that my favorite line is, somehow Palpatine returned. But no, it's not. It's my favorite line is when Yoda says to Luke, we are what they grow beyond.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And there's just something special like that with that idea, that here's just what Leia represents, and Luke too, because he's out there in the desert. Yeah. And he, it's just, she is, wherever Padme and Anakin's story ends, for better or for worse, and there's all this tragedy with it, she is this new hope, right? Or she grows beyond that. And so whatever his, regrets, whatever his sorrow, there's this, like, she's here, and all the good that I experienced with the two of her parents, there's this, even if that's gone, and I think that's just really beautiful to explore.
Thomas?
I think that the more I'm seeing from Star Wars stuff, the more I'm seeing that the new things that cut a new path are the things that they really need to focus on, because they're the things that I enjoy the most. I would love for Riva to be a more central part of this story, and for her to really push the story forward. And I feel like they're trying that, but then they've also got this other stuff that they're just trying to shove in that was, it's pre-existing stuff. It's like, oh, we could put this cool thing in and this cool thing in. And it's like, no. Do the new stuff because it's working.
Andrew?
Yeah, I would say, I just hope the show with these last 2 episodes ends on the promise that, they gave us when way back, during this whole hype train with Ewan and Hayden Christensen doing all these interviews and, them being at the forefront. I think Hayden Christensen has only been in the back to tank scenes. I think that all the other Vader scenes are, stunt doubles. So obviously we know we're going to get it because they've been teasing it, but I hope we just go back to the title of the series. We go back to Obi-Wan and sort of focus on him and his internal struggles, obviously this sort of healing aspect, and obviously tie in like we mentioned in a reasonable and not so like where we can poke at it and like find holes sort of way, like just be able to close the gap between this show and the original trilogy, and be satisfied, with the ending. And hey, if they surprise announce the season 2, I would love that, because I think it needs this show needs more room to sort of breathe and more time with just Obi-Wan as a character. I feel like that was sort of like the way it was going in the first 2 episodes. And it's kind of fallen to the wayside, I think, especially with episode 4. And I think that's why I've had these sort of extreme feelings about it. But yeah, I'm again, like you said at the top, bad Star Wars is good Star Wars. It's just awesome getting to see these characters again, and I'm still gonna watch, and I'm still gonna watch anything that Star Wars does. So it's like all these complaints, again, it comes from a place of love, and yeah, we'll see. Hopefully, they really pay it off in a big way.
Okay, Mike Dens.
The adult viewer in me is with everybody else when it comes to wishing the show was tighter, in its writing and its editing. You know, we didn't bring up the Narnia-like wardrobe tunnel that you don't know exactly where it's leading and who can go through and who will see anyone come back or whatever. Was a real big difficult thing, and Vader being so bent on finding Kenobi, but the fire stops him. Those kind of things. But the 6-year-old who saw A New Hope advertised in commercials and was stunned into like just absolute awe and worship, and that is the coolest thing I've ever seen and heard, and was just mesmerized for the rest of my life, is very satisfied with the stormtroopers and Vader and lightsabers. I mean, it's just so much fun to see those things. And so yeah, there's two different things going on.
Mike, you and I are the same generation of Star Wars fans, and I agree. I think I pointed out before we started recording, like even A New Hope has massive flaws, like flaws you could fly a Star Destroyer through, because a little bit holes here and there in the plot, but we love it, and it was awesome. And there are big flaws here, and that is unavoidable, and but nevertheless, there's so much to love, and there's so much good here, and even bad Star Wars is good Star Wars, like I said. And I'm looking forward to these last 2 episodes. My kids love it, and they're really into it, and I see their enjoyment of it. And as an episode ends, and they're like, "No, more!" I want more. And that's where a lot of my enjoyment comes from, is watching their enjoyment of it. And they don't have the same analytical eye necessarily that we do, but there's so much to like. There's so much to like about Leia. There's so much to like about Obi-Wan and what's going on with them. And I love the unexpected nature of this whole series, which is that it's Leia who's at the center of this series and not Luke, like we all expected it was going to be.
Right. And
I love that they took a chance on that, and they had that misdirection. I still think seeing Vader on screen at the height of his strength is still really cool to see.
He sounds fantastic.
Yeah.
This re-speecher thing, I mean, it's just dead on.
Yeah. It is so good.
Yeah.
So
and him with his lightsaber and the glow and everything.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
I'm looking forward to these next 2 episodes. Definitely. All right. So I think that should do it now. We would like to take a moment to thank our patrons who make it possible for us to create the Secrets of Star Wars, including Tim H., Bill B., Ron T., Joseph P., and Caleb B. Not Caleb Doom, but Caleb B. Their generous donations at sqpn.com/give make it possible for us to continue the Secrets of the Secrets of Star Wars. Knew I was going to do it one of these times. Yep, caught me. And all the shows at StarQuest, including the Secrets of Doctor Who. You can join them by visiting sqpn.com/give. Be sure to follow the Secrets of Star Wars, whether it's an Apple Podcast or Google Podcast, or on Spotify in your favorite podcast app, or at the StarQuest YouTube channel, where you should also hit the bell to get notifications. A review at Apple Podcasts or wherever you can write reviews is super important. It helps us get seen by other people and spreads the news about this podcast, same as sharing it with your Star Wars loving friends. We'd love when you do that. Get your very own Secrets of Star Wars t-shirt or phone case or mug or whatever by visiting sqpn.com/merch. So we'd love to hear from you. What did you think of Part 4 of Kenobi? You can let us know by commenting at sqpn.com, our Facebook page at facebook.com/StarQuestMedia, or an email to starwars@sqpn.com, or the StarQuest Discord community at sqpn.com/Discord. We'll be back next time when we'll be discussing Part 5 of Kenobi, The Empire Strikes Back. Until then, Thomas and Erho, thank you for joining me and sharing the secrets of Star Wars.
It's been great.
And Justilana, thank you as well.
Yeah, it's been awesome.
Mike Creevy, thank you.
Yeah, anytime.
Mike Dens, and thank you as well for joining us.
I'm just living the dream.
And Andrew Hermes had to drop off. He had to go. Probably had to go rescue Leia. And so I'm Dom Bettinelli. Thank you for listening to The Secrets of Star Wars on StarQuest.